You are going to have to undo all of these versions of yourself and then rebuild all these new versions of yourself. And so this is also why changes feels impossible, because you are 95% programmed in one direction. You have become a set of beliefs, a set of thoughts, a set of behaviors, a set of patterns, a set of programs. You can only change in the gap. You cannot change in the day-to-day programming.
People are always like, how could you do that? Like, how could you not eat for 5 days? It's such an amazing opportunity to sit with yourself. It's not easy. You know, those habits don't just form overnight, and they don't feel comfortable because you're so used to being a certain way and living a certain way that you're going to feel weird.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm chatting to gorgeous Sarah today.
Hi.
We've actually been chatting just to be transparent
for a really long time.
Chatting for an hour, and I was like, we're supposed to be filming something. So here we are, we're filming something. So we were just chatting because we are running a brand new masterclass on the 1st of January for any of you that will not be hungover, or you do want to be hungover and you want to come hang out with us anyway at 11 o'clock. We are running the Heal Masterclass, and we'll talk more about that in this session, but we were talking about it today. And really, it comes down to helping people heal from the reasons they're not the version of themselves they want to be. So we thought today we would talk about why New Year's resolutions don't fucking work. And why, even though it's a new year, unless something really fundamental changes, you will be the exact same version of yourself. We've just been talking about our own personal stories and about change and about transformation, how much we've grown, and like the lessons and the wisdom. And like, obviously this year you've worked with, at this point, hundreds of women, right, inside your coaching. Why do you think that people don't change?
Gosh, there's a question.
And maybe the question's too big. Why do you think people don't change even though they really want to? Maybe that's it. A more nuance.
That is it. It's like, I truly, to my core, know that human beings aren't lazy. So people often think, oh, it's willpower, I'm lazy, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, that's not true. That's a story that they've made up in their head to justify why they haven't been able to change. But I believe a lot of it is around their belief systems and their sense of comfort and what brings them comfort and joy, and using tools, for example, food and alcohol, as a safety blanket and a sense of joy. And that's not to say that food shouldn't be joyful, because it absolutely should. Like, it's one of human beings' pleasures, isn't it? Right? Like going out for a lovely meal and enjoying the company and all of that. But I think what happens for a lot of people is it becomes the crutch for everything. We use it to celebrate, we use it to commiserate, we use it to numb, we use it for everything. And the problem with it is the chemical kind of changes that will then create in our brain will then lead to us not being able to break those patterns. So for example, when we consider dopamine and how dopamine works. So dopamine is like our reward chemical in the brain. It makes us feel good. It is what motivates us. And so whenever we do anything that drives dopamine up, if we do too much of it for too long, like eating far too much chocolate, drinking far too much wine, doom scrolling, all of those things, it's like we will end up getting this chemical desensitization to it. So anything that there's too much of in the body for too long, the body is so freaking smart that it will downregulate the receptors. So if you look at hormone insensitivity, it's a real thing. People think, oh, you know, let's say a woman needs HRT, put them onto HRT, all is going to be great. But if they've got a real desensitization to those hormones, and the same thing happens with thyroid hormones as well, too much of them for too long, if you're on too many meds, will create a desensitization, because the receptor sites on the cell where that neurotransmitter or that hormone docks goes, I'm not going to listen anymore. Like, there's too much of this for too long, puts its little earmuffs on. I mean, it doesn't really have earmuffs. I wish it did. That'd be quite cool. But what actually happened...
Babe, I'm here for the visual metaphors. I've probably got a few in the bank today as well.
I love a good analogy and a little vision. So receptor sites will either get cleaved off, or they actually start going inside the cell as a little protection, like hide. I'm going to hide in here so you can't get to me, to stop too much of that thing, that chemical, that neurotransmitter, that hormone, being able to dock and elicit too much of a response. Because dopamine is amazing, but too much dopamine is not. Like, yeah, it makes you feel like absolute shit.
We were just talking about when we've both had periods where we've had too much of it and we're fucking crazy.
Yeah, absolutely off the freaking planet. And again, this is where ADHD meds kind of come into the play, because what they will do is they will ramp up dopamine. And so when someone first goes on to ADHD meds, a lot of the time, you will see that they get sweats, like adrenaline rushes, nervousness, they can't sleep properly. And then over time, those meds kind of stop working because the receptor sites now downregulate and you don't feel the dopamine anymore. So think of it like having a threshold. So if you're using dopamine in the right way and you've got just the right amount, let's say you need this amount to feel it. Now, if you start doing loads of dopamine seeking behaviors, like drinking loads of wine, eating loads of chocolate, etc., and you desensitize the cell, you now need this much to be able to feel it. So you've got a big gap. And that means when you do something like go on a health kick in January, start a new diet, you now are taking away all of the dopamine hits, the things that bring you that feeling of reward, the food, the wine, all of that. So now you're in the gap. And when you're in the gap, it's really freaking uncomfortable. You feel like you're losing your marbles. You feel like you want to quit. You feel like you're going insane because you now don't have enough dopamine to be able to feel it, because you need to wait for those receptors to basically reset themselves, which takes time. And so that's why when people are in the gap, they quit, because they don't have the feeling of joy and reward that they would have, because the dopamine isn't landing, because they now don't have as much as they need to be able to feel it. So I think it's such a huge reason why people are just not able to stick to what they say they're going to stick to. It's not a willpower your way through. It's not a mindset thing. It's a chemical reaction that's actually happening in your body that needs to be reset. And there's certain things that you can do to help with that in terms of like supplementation and, you know, some really cool things like peptides that I'm a bit obsessed with, that we will talk more about in the actual masterclass. But yeah, that is my whole theory on it. Is dopamine is such a huge part of everything. And also there's massive links between dopamine and the immune system.
But you're so good you talked about that, about the gap. I think this is where the emotional side of it comes in, right? It's like people are running through life, like cracking on, doing what they need to do, going through the motions. And what most people don't realize is that over time, we actually become basically 90 to 95% programmed onto what you'll describe as autopilot, right? We all drive to the supermarket and think, how the fuck did I get here? Or we go to the gym, or we, you know, and that's because we've programmed what we think is useful. Whatever we repeat, whatever we do over and over, the brain goes, all right, okay, just remember this, right? I don't know about you, but I don't fancy learning to drive a car every day, or learning to tie shoelaces, or having to do something all from scratch every single day. So like the human brain is super useful, right? Because it remembers things, it remembers patterns, it remembers behaviors, it remembers belief systems, it remembers thought processes, and it makes them automatic. And that's amazing when they're fucking mega supportive, but that's really shit when they're not. And so, especially when you add in there's a chemical reward to it, we're going to do things that give us chemical reward, right? So when someone's in that gap, because you've taken away the source of, like you say, the pleasure, the chemical, what we're also forced to sit with is who we've become. We're also forced to sit with the programs, the behaviors, the beliefs, the thought processes of the version of us that we are. And that is the point, like you say, most people, when they're forced to sit with that, they have actually maybe used the food, the chocolate, the wine, the television, the whatever, their whole lives to not feel those things about themselves, to not be aware of who they are, what they know to be true, what they believe about themselves. And so as a result, when you're in that gap and you're forced, like literally forced to sit with who you really are, at that point, most people do not have what's called nervous system capacity, the capacity inside of them to hold space for, fucking hell, I don't like all these things about myself. Oh my God, how have I got here? Oh my God, this is a mess. They don't have that. And so what they'll do is reach back for the things that allow them to push all of that down and feel different. And that's normally, like you say, those like dopamine seeking behaviors. But what this is really the real opportunity for, right? This is where the magic happens, is you can only change in the gap.
Yeah.
You cannot change in the day-to-day programming. Like there's so much noise around adding in new habits and that changing you as a person. And look, I am all for habit stacking. I'm all for building routines and rituals that really serve the future version of you. But that can't happen if they're easy. And that's just because the human mind doesn't learn anything that's easy. And look, I have whole programs and narratives about things do not have to be hard and do not have to be a struggle. So when I say it doesn't, I don't mean it has to be like painstakingly difficult, like all these fucking high rocks athletes make out like on Instagram. They're always like, everything has to be hard. You must do ice baths at 4 a.m. I'm like, or not. I mean,
no, thank you. I'll choose no.
I'm fine. So I'm not saying you have to make this impossible for yourself, but in the hard is where I'm saying is, like I always say, there doesn't have to be struggle to be strength, but where there is strength, there has usually always been struggle, right? So in the gap, when you're in the gap, this is the chance to do the deep work. This is where doing the deep work is so fucking supportive when you are kind of create change, because you are going to have to undo all of these versions of yourself and then rebuild all these new versions of yourself. And so this is also why changes feels fucking impossible, because you are 95% programmed in one direction. You have become a set of beliefs, a set of thoughts, a set of behaviors, a set of patterns, a set of programs, a set of attitudes, a set of cultural acceptances. And, people sometimes don't understand what the word bias means, but bias simply means the way we've become inclined or the way that we automatically think. And there is cultural bias, racial bias that we're not even aware of. And so we often do things and say things and act things out and we go, why did I do that? Because it's happening at a subconscious and an unconscious level. And the way I describe it to people, and this is not how it actually looks, but it's easy to understand, is if you think of the conscious mind as like the 5% thinking mind, 5% to make new decisions, new rational thought, right? This is where willpower lives. If willpower lived anywhere, it doesn't exist. But if it did, it lived here. So you've got 5% fighting against 95% of programming, which is your subconscious mind. Now, we often think of the subconscious mind as like the brain. It's not, it's the nervous system. The subconscious mind and the unconscious mind is the rest of how your body functions. So when that has learned to program itself in a certain way to get what it needs, right? And needs doesn't mean what it wants, and needs doesn't mean optimal, but what it needs, what it believes it needs, you are fighting a war. Because you've got soldiers of 5% of willpower and grit and all those other shit words fighting 95% of who you become. So when I have clients in, and we actually have a joint client who was really, really honest about some of her struggles with emotional eating and binge eating. And what she needed to do was she needed to address what was happening on a chemical level. She needed to address gut health and hormonal balance. But what she actually needed to do was get to the root cause of why she needed food. And why food was such a big deal to her and why it soothed her. And we'll talk about this in the masterclass, because I could do a whole masterclass just on the nervous system in this context, is when the nervous system has programmed itself to only feel safe or calm or relaxed, right? Using these outside tools, this is why it's impossible to change. But what most people don't really understand, and this is what I'll break down so clearly in the masterclass, is you're not actually creating a relaxed state. You're actually just pushing things down. Yeah. And so what happens when we then try to change or become someone new is when we're in the gap is too uncomfortable. The gap is too different. The gap is too separate. This is why these weight loss camps will never work, because you'll send somebody off to a weight loss camp where they're in a new environment, they're a new person, no one knows them, they create all the change and they come back into their environment and they're triggered back into that old 95% version of them. And this is why doing the emotional work alongside the nutrition plan or alongside the fitness plan, or like you say, whatever it is not just like a good idea, it's fucking required. Because otherwise the same version of you is going to show up on February 1st and you're going to end up in the same cycle over again.
100%. And that's why, like, a lot of our clients, the ones who kind of progress the quickest are the ones that work alongside both of us, because they're doing it from the physical chemical perspective, but from the nervous system regulation and the safety aspect of their body and their brain feeling safe without the need of certain substances to make them feel that way, to create a safety feeling. It's doing, like you said, the deep work to know why, and to give your body the understanding that it is safe without the need for food. And this, yeah. And it's so interesting because when, some of our clients will go through like fasting protocols, for example, and I've been through them myself, and people are always like, how could you do that? Like, how could you not eat for 5 days? And I'm like, well, it's not easy, but at the same time, it's such an amazing opportunity to sit with yourself because you have no distractions. Like, you don't realize how often you distract yourself with something like food and drink and things. And it's like, you just have to sit there and be like, oh, wow, and assess your relationship with all of those things and what they actually mean to you. And like I said, it's not that food shouldn't be enjoyable. I absolutely believe it should. But in the modern world, we have created a society that relies on these things. Whereas if you think back to the Dark Ages, it was like, well, you would have to hunt to get your food. So you would have periods where you were not eating because you didn't have anything. And then you'd have periods where you were foraging in the forests. And then you'd have periods where you'd be feasting on meat because that's the way that the world worked. But now with fridges, I mean, and convenience food. Yeah, exactly. We have everything on tap 24/7. And the reality is that is only going to continue to grow. If you look at the world that we live in, everything is now about convenience, and it will continue to be about convenience and being able to get things at the drop of a hat, and AI to be able to think for you, and all of this stuff. So the more we enter into this world as it is moving, the more we have to be mindful about this stuff, because if not, we are going to be programmed by something else and by someone else into a way that is actually not serving any of us.
And you know what? You touched on something there, by someone else. And I think one of the biggest challenges, and whenever I talk about this topic, every single year, there's something I talk about, is a lot of people will do things like go on a diet, lose weight, get fit, enter a competition, whatever it is, because it's a good idea or because they think they should. And look, I'm all for everybody being an optimal healthy weight. I'm all for everybody having an amazing sex drive. I'm all for everybody feeling energized and like lit up about their job, or like I'm all for all change all the time. Like I think that the human condition has so much fucking potential, and that when you get to actually experience what that feels like, it feels outrageously amazing. Like when I came off my protocols with you, I was like a different fucking person, right? And I didn't have that much to work on. So and I think I'm all for all of it, but often we do things because we think they're the right thing to do, or the next thing to do, or what we should do. So whether that's setting a massive business goal on the 1st of January, like, right, this is the month, I'm going for it, I'm doing it. Like if the only, and you know what, I'm going to caveat what I last just said, the only energy and emotion that will ever overwrite your programming is desire, and not shame. So shoulding yourself and saying, oh, I should lose weight, or I should go for that goal, or, oh God, I've been doing this for ages, right, this is the year. Like the only energy that will ever move you as a human being beyond your programming is the energy of full-blown, full-body fucking desire. And that is because either the nervous system is so activated, and it's not always a good thing, out of fear. So often when people get a diagnosis, right, I've got heart disease, I'm going to fucking lose weight. Or, my marriage is in crisis, right, I'm going to go to therapy. Or, my business is fucking not making any money, right, I'm going to take it seriously now. But then what we're doing it from is a really activated state. But that will get things fucking going, right? It will not keep things going. And this is why a lot of business owners end up really burnt out, because they can only seem to move themselves from this energy of activation. Or it can come from actually saying, this is what I really, really deeply want. What I really deeply want for myself. But again, that requires a whole level of being willing to sit with yourself and know yourself, and actually have enough love and trust for yourself that you feel worthy of creating those changes. And so this is where I think it's so easy to think, like I said about logical, like it's logical that on the 1st of January, you'll throw out all the junk food and prep some healthy food and build a schedule for yourself about when you're going to go to the gym and, when you're going to do your meditations. But ultimately, it's not about the plan. It's not about the schedule. You're a human being, right? Not a human doing. It's about whether or not you want to. And look, I'm all for, like we said, things are not always going to be easy when we're creating change. And there's things I don't sometimes, deeply desire to do my accounts, right? But at the same time, I want the end result. I want a business that financially is fluid and where money always supports me. So in order for that to happen, I'm intimate with my money, right? I wanted to not have 36-day periods anymore. So even though I didn't want to do Sarah's protocol, right? I wanted to not be a miserable mess for 7 days a month, because I was like, come on, when my period wouldn't come, right? And I'm now back to 20. Oh, but I meant to tell you, had a 26-day cycle, gone the other way, so like the dream, right? But the point is, it's always about looking at when you are doing something because it's the right thing to do, or the next thing to do, or because you think you should do it, because it's fucking January 1st, and actually looking at it and saying, is this what I actually deeply want? And if you don't know, that's also okay. Because a lot of the time we don't know. We're so programmed, we end up in a place that we go, how the fuck did I get here? We've all been there. But actually really asking yourself, is this what I truly, is this the best, most supportive thing for me? Like I think about a joint client that we've got that signed up for High Rocks, and she was like, oh no, it's not, I didn't want to do it. And it's funny because we've all done that. We've all gone, yeah, I'm going to do that thing. And then we're like, oh no.
Yeah. Why?
Now? But it's because we've done it from expectation, obligation, because it's the right thing to do, because it's what we should. And this is where we have to get to the root and heal it. And this is what we're going to talk about in the masterclass, of how to actually do that.
Yes, 100%. And the final thing I wanted to say was with regards to when something becomes like a new way of life. So for me, for example, like my health is my number one priority. Like it has been for the last God knows how many years, because I value my body and myself enough to make it my number one priority. And I know what it's like to not be in that place to have health.
Mm.
And I think sometimes you don't realize how good you can feel until you feel good.
Yeah.
But you have to be in that place of being able to imagine what it would be to be that version of you who does make the right choices that feel good and honor your body. Because again, a lot of people do things just out of autopilot or habit, and then they beat themselves up afterwards. You know, they make
Cultural
the choices.
expectation, societal expectation. Have a drink. Why
Yeah.
aren't you having cake? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't have enough solidity within themselves and their nervous system to be able to say, I'm actually good without that. I'm all good with not drinking whilst you're all drinking. And so it's like when you get to that point where you just know your values enough and what means more to you than other people's expectations of you, that everything changes. So like for me now, it's like my life I is easy. Like
Same.
living healthy is easy to me because I don't have to even think about it. I just know what honors my body and how to look after it in the best possible way. But when you're in that first phase of making that change to becoming that version of you, it's not easy. You know, those habits don't just form overnight and they don't feel comfortable because you're so used to being a certain way and living a certain way that you're going to feel fucking weird. Like you're going to feel like not you and like you've lost your personality. And that's why I think people find it really hard to give up alcohol because their personality is them drinking. The fun is them drinking. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm boring. And I'm like, but are you actually boring without it? Or do you just think you're boring? I mean, I'm quite boring.
I'm quite boring, babe. It's fine. I'm okay with it. It's okay.
I'm all good with being boring. But is it your safety guard? Is it your
Mine definitely was. Mine was I didn't really understand the depth of my neurodiversity until really this year. And actually I realized that it was social anxiety that as a result of, and actually, I'll talk about this in the Heal Masterclass, some root cause beliefs that I didn't know I had, around, not being good enough and around like not feeling safe and people don't care what I have to say. And like I had these beliefs that were living as alive, like they were alive within my body, but alcohol shut them the fuck up.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
I then became a normal person who didn't have to feel separate and different, And like we were just talking before we came on about how sometimes clients will ask for permission for things and we're like, but you're a grown adult. But it's because we just need somebody to say it's okay. Because our whole lives we've been looking around going, is this okay? Is it okay that I drink? Is it okay I don't drink? Is it okay I'm on a diet? And we live in this world of like constant validation, constant see me, constant seeking with social media, which just makes everything 10 times fucking harder to say no or do it different.
And again, I think a lot of that comes down to safety because people don't feel safe to trust in themselves enough to know that they can make their own decisions. They need someone to say this is the right thing to do or this is not the right thing to do because that gives them a level of safety within their brain and their nervous system. But when you start to realize that based on what you actually want the outcome to be, the answer. Like one of my clients actually messaged me yesterday because she's got her birthday coming up and it's Christmas and she was like, I want to feel empowered to make the right choices, like around alcohol and things like that. I don't want to feel like restricted that I can't do it, but I want to feel empowered to make the right decisions. And she was like, but if you turn around to me and say, don't fucking do it because it's going to ruin everything, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, I'm not going to say that to you. The one thing I would say is I want you to avoid gluten because it's really not going to help you right now. But I'm going to explain to you with regards to alcohol, etc., what that is going to do in terms of where you want to end up in your health journey with me and how long we've got together. But this is your decision at the end of the day. I want you to feel empowered enough to know what decision to make, but I'm going to give you some options as well. Like, here's some sparkling tea. That sounds really beige, but there is a really nice sparkling tea that actually tastes like Prosecco. Here's some mocktails. Have a
But we're really selling ourselves as this like vibrant, exciting, come learn from us and have our life type people.
We are wild. We are
Fucking
wild.
wild.
Just don't know it yet. But it's really interesting because when I gave up drinking, and I'm not that person that's like, I'm never going to drink again. Like, that's it. I'm just like, if I fancied one, I will have one. But over the last 5 years, I've always been like, I actually don't feel
I think in the last 5 years, I've seen you drink one glass of Prosecco in Las Vegas.
That's it. And I'm like, I just don't feel the need for it anymore because if I can get that pleasure within myself anyway, without the need of alcohol to make it, then I'm all good. And it's so interesting because I was, you know, the binge drinker at the weekend when I was a dancer, my Sunday night would be pure alcohol, and I would feel like shit for 3 days afterwards and like have the horrible anxiety and all of that. And I was like, I just don't want to live that anymore, where I have that feeling for 3 days of my week every week of feeling like I've done something wrong when I know I haven't done something wrong, and feeling like a bad human when I know I'm not a bad human. Like all of these weird things would come up for me. And so it's like when you get to that point where you're like, I can actually go out and just enjoy being there for what it is, the company that I'm with, the people that I'm with, the experience. Yeah.
But
Without the
we're
need of,
taught to escape presence through
yeah.
all of these things.
Yeah.
And that's because to our point is that we don't feel safe to be ourselves.
Hmm.
So this is why we're doing the masterclass. And really the masterclass is very much about helping heal addictive behaviors, but really ultimately the core of it is healing the relationship that you have with yourself and breaking the cycle of who you've been so that you can become the person you actually want to be in 2026. That's really the fundamentals of the masterclass, you know. And I think I'll just speak to the energetics just quickly, is that this has been, and I didn't really embody this belief until recently, with like both of us and lots of my clients going through a very strange experience right now of shedding, like leaving wounds behind, is this has been the year of the snake, and the year of the horse doesn't start till February. I think people think it starts on January 1st, and it doesn't start till February. But what an incredible opportunity to have this time and have January with that level of awareness around who you want to be and knowing how to heal your relationship with yourself, to be able to go into February with that there is going to be energetic power, whether you like it or not, that's going to be creating momentum behind you. Like, are you the version of yourself you want to be with momentum behind you? Because the version of you right now, if you don't like them, if you don't like who you are right now with momentum behind you, is only going to create more of that, bigger problems, bigger issues. But if you like the version of yourself as you go into that season, the momentum behind you is going to be freaking unbelievable. And this is why we're doing the Heal Masterclass on January 1st, because we will not be hungover.
We won't. We'll be absolutely full of joy and sprightliness from our sparkling tea.
I don't know about sparkling tea, but I mean, look,
I'm going to send you a link. You'll honestly,
right.
It tastes like Prosecco. It doesn't taste like piss. You know, normally you get like alcohol-free wine, and you're like, no,
Zecco. Like,
yeah, I'm like, that is just like a bit of apple juice with a fizz in it. No, this is good shit.
Okay, good shit. All right, sparkling tea it is. So if you want to join us for the Heal Masterclass, you can register at lucysuperfox.com/heal. It's completely free. But we're doing it live 1st of January at 11 a.m. If you're not getting up at 11 a.m. because you were out partying the night before, there's zero judgment. You'll get the replay. It'll be up there about 12 o'clock the same day at the same link, lucysuperfox.com/heal. So thanks for chatting with me, my love.
Thank you.
And can't wait to see you inside the masterclass.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.